Hello and welcome back to an episode of Farewell Evangelion, the podcast where we go through the Neon Genesis Evangelion series bit by bit. My name is Keith, I'm going through for my last time, and as always I'm joined by Peter.
Hello!
Who is going through for us first. Today we started the new manga series. Well, new isn't for us specifically going through it.
Nope, brand new, released yesterday.
The Shinji Ikari Raising Project released March 25th, 2006. So yesterday was March 24th, 2006. What a time to be alive.
Yep.
It was written by Somu Takashi. So for him, he's done a lot of, for better word, edgy stuff before this. And after. He has a niche.
Yeah, he does. He knows what he likes and he makes what he likes.
Exactly. And the synopsis for this one is... And the synopsis for Shinji Ikari Raising Project is pretty odd in itself. Stunning, hot-headed Asuka Langley Soryu has been friends with Shinji Ikari since they were little. And she always sort of assumed that they'd stay together, until the day that the beautiful, brilliant Rei Ayanami showed up in class. When Shinji starts to get curious about Rei, Asuka needs to figure out if she wants to be just friends with Shinji, or something more. But why are so many people keeping an eye on these relationships? People like homeroom teacher Misato, school nurse Ritsuko, and Shinji's mother, Nerve's chief scientist, Yui Ikari.
Who knows? Things are weird. Alright,
Everyone's very concerned about these relationships.
Yeah, everyone's deeply invested in these relationships. Alright, so right off the bat, my prediction.
Yeah.
I predicted lots of chaos, which, I mean, to be honest, Volume 1 was kind of lacking in chaos. Yeah. It was mostly an introduction of characters, so fair enough. I did poorly on that. I also predicted a love dodecahedron. And while we technically did not get a dodecahedron, the primary shape of this love ambiguity was triangular. And if you want to get real mathy about it, dodecahedrons are isomorphically linked to icosahedrons, and icosahedrons are just made up of triangles, so I'm giving myself partial credit for that by using math bullshit. Also, it is more than just a triangle because while it's clear that he doesn't actually have feelings for her, both Kensuke and Toji express appreciation for Rei, and then that causes Hikari to get pissed off at Toji, so there is some extra dimensionality to this triangle, and it's not just a triangle.
It's a very spaghetti-like love shape.
It's a flying spaghetti monster love shape. Twists and turns all about. Anyways, so this series starts very much in a similar place to where the last one started.
Yeah, it starts with similar themes to Angelic Days, but it's more close to the main timeline for what to expect, because everything seems to still be the world as it is in that, but everyone grew up better because Shinji's mom's still alive, essentially.
Yeah.
The one thing that I like with this one, too, is where Angelic Days was more of just a straight romance, this is more of, like, your standard, like, romantic comedy harem type storyline.
Yeah.
Because you can tell, like, he's got the pratfalls, like, oops, I fell into your boobs type situation. It's like, you know exactly what this one's gonna be.
Yeah, it's got, like, a little splash of slice of life, but yeah, it's kind of leading into the It's almost... It's not quite there, but it's almost at the level of, like, porn logic, where, like, he falls and faceplants into her boobs, and she faceplants into his crotch, and it's like, I don't understand how people fall like that, but that's almost where we're at. So yes, first episode, just introducing us to the wise and wonderful Shinji, who oversleeps, and his old childhood friend Asuka, who has to wake him up in the morning to make sure he gets to class on time.
And much like Bubbly Rei was probably the most emotive Rei we ever had, this is probably the most emotive Shinji we've ever had.
100%. Who knows, there might be more emotive Shinjis out there. This is the one, as of this point in the podcast, this is the most emotive Shinji.
Yeah.
So, pretty standard day of, like, they go to class. There's no overtly homosexual, what the fuck? Why am I forgetting his name? Kaoru, thank you.
He disappeared from your life.
Yeah, that's true. He was erased from my memory at the end of fucking Angelic Days, so I don't know why I would think I would remember him. But yeah, there's no overtly homosexual Kaoru in this one. It's just regular students at a regular school, all hanging out, meanwhile giving Shinji and Asuka shit for being an old married couple at the ripe old age of 14.
The thing I love about this, too, is we get kind of a almost callback to the joke from Angelic Days, where Gendo is like a little worried about Yui, and Yui's like the exact same thing, where you can see the smoke coming off from Gendo's head.
Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't tell the thing.
Yeah. It's once again Yui turning to Gendo, did you tell him the thing? And then Gendo saying nothing, and she's like, God fucking damn it, you didn't do it, did you? So yes, it starts to pour rain during the day, and cut to Shinji getting shit from the other two, because he clearly forgot an umbrella, because he doesn't understand weather. And Asuka looking inside her backpack and seeing 2 umbrellas. And she's like, good thing I brought a backup one, because Shinji's a fucking idiot. And then the guys start giving Shinji even more shit, because they're like, oh, Asuka, your old wife, she probably brought a spare one for you, just in case. And Asuka's like, alright, you know what? Just because they're making fun of you, Shinji, fuck you, I'm leaving.
Shinji specifically does the whole, I don't even have that kind of relationship with her.
Yeah, that's right. That's what causes her to kind of spiral out of control.
She's nothing to me.
She, runs away holding 2 umbrellas to protect her from all the rain.
I have 360 degrees of coverage.
I'm impervious to rain! So Shinji has to run home with his backpack over his head to keep it dry. And that's where he runs into the mysterious new girl, Rei Ayanami. And he's like, hey, you're new here. I'm your new here. Yeah, you heard me, that's what he says. And she's like, yep, I am.
Here. Could you show me around? What?
And he's like, sure, as soon as it stops raining, I'll show you around. And then someone from, not Nerve, the Artificial Human Evolution Project shows up, and they're like, hey, I'm gonna take you home now, Rei. And, like, that's cool. So Shinji goes home and then stumbles into Rei in the shower.
Yeah.
The end.
Got home before him somehow, and had the time to shower. Which is either there's a secret, efficient way to get to that house, or Shinji also got lost.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past Shinji getting lost, but we do also see the person who picks up Rei drive off in a car, so Shinji probably just walked home while she got to drive home. Which doesn't give her a huge advantage, but does definitely give her an advantage in getting home first.
Also, you would think the person would have probably also recognized
Shinji as the child of Yui, the person that they're driving her to, and offer Shinji a ride.
Yeah.
But no, they don't. So, that's Chapter 1. Chapter 2, Yui busts into Shinji's room, and she's like, I'm God! Sorry, I didn't... You heard me right, I'm God, sorry.
Everything that's happened is my fault.
So, Shinji apologizes.
You are missing one part, though, because it's, when he gets to the house, when he sees Rei, he for a moment thinks he's in the wrong house.
That's right, he does. Anyways, he ends up going to his room, Yui busts down the door, and he apologizes for running into Rei in the shower. And Yui's like, I didn't even know that happened, I don't know why you're confessing. This is your distant family member. That's all the relation you're getting out of this story. Also, no explanation.
To be fair, that's probably the best explanation ever we've gotten for Rei.
Yeah.
Distant family member.
Also, no explanation as to what she's doing here. Just, this is a distant family member. She's here now. Help her out. Yeah. So, next day, as tends to happen, Asuka decides to show up and walk Shinji to school. But who should come busting out of Shinji's home but Rei? Yeah. He invited a girl over to his parents' house and slept with her overnight, is what Asuka assumes.
It's what everyone at school assumes. Because Asuka ends up letting it blurt out later, it's like, it's not my fault he's got, like, Rei staying at him.
And everyone's like, Shinji, you dirty dog, you did the deed? He's like, I'm a child, I live with my parents.
And like, oh, the parents must already know about it.
Yeah, your parents already condone your relationship.
Condone?
Oh, God. So yeah, that's the crux of this episode, is Shinji's distant relative coming to stay with him, and Asuka being confused about their relationship.
Yeah, pretty much.
Everyone assumes they're sleeping together.
Everyone's sleeping together.
Yeah.
The best part is, like, Shinji is always in all of these things completely oblivious to any sort of, like, affection coming towards him.
Yeah. This is also the point when Kensuke and Toji start making lewd sexual remarks towards Rei, like asking her what her 3 measurements are and all that stuff.
I mean, it's Toji. They did this in the original as well.
Yep.
Supple thighs, remember?
Supple thighs. I had completely forgotten about those 2 words. Jesus. So yeah, that's what's going on here. I don't remember if there's much else that happens in this chapter other than the whole revelation that Shinji's sleeping with her.
The only real new information also pops up in these 2 chapters is, once again, Misato is the teacher of
right,
the
yes.
class.
She accuses Shinji of writing a novel.
Lots of it later. But at first it sounds like you wrote her a love letter, And then later on, when you find him very clearly, no, he actually wrote a novel, and
Yeah,
apparently
he's working on writing
the
a novel.
best.
Yeah, he has creative juices, and he's been told that it's great to create something, but he's not good at art or anything, so he figured...
Art or music, which means this Shinji cannot play the cello.
Yeah. So he decided the best outlet for his creative juices was writing a bad novel.
Yeah. And giving it to Misato.
Yeah, and the best part is...
How fucking misguided is this guy?
Misato straight up calls him out and is like, if you zone out in my class one more time, the next lesson will be me reading your fucking novel to the class.
Required reading for everybody.
Yeah. So that's what's going on with Shinji and Misato.
Yeah, the first roughly 5 chapters in this volume is more so like the establishing stuff of the relationships. It's kind of like a bunch of enclosed stories here and there as it pops around. Because then we obviously have the shopping story where Yui gets Shinji to take Rei out to go get supplies because she shouldn't be just using the guest stuff. She's going to be there for a long time.
Yep. We also get the beach episode where they go to the beach for class one day. And this is the scene where Shinji gets hit in the face with a ball and then ends up collapsing on top of Rei's chest, and then they go for a walk together and talk a little bit. There's also the gym episode where they're playing soccer and Asuka tries to kick a ball at Rei's head while shouting "I hate you" and ends up tripping and hurting her ankle.
Yep.
Shinji ends up carrying her to the health clinic because he's a nice guy.
Where we find out Ritsuko is, once again, the school nurse.
Of course. What else would Ritsuko be doing with her life?
Very intelligent Ritsuko Ikari, school nurse.
Yep. Good for her.
At least Commander to Nerve, well not Commander, but like, Field Commander of Nerve to Homework Teacher. I can see that trajectory either way for Misato. Ritsuko seeing anything but like world-class scientists seems weird.
Yeah. Especially because Misato works her way back up to Field Commander by the end of this fucking volume.
The one other story we did also not mention was we have Festival storyline as well.
Which is where Shinji and Asuka get very competitive, and we find out that Asuka uses pure power to defeat every challenge that comes before her. Yeah. And Shinji uses pure, beautiful technique to win every challenge. To the point where he has been banned from certain booths for winning too much and cheating.
Yeah, the ball one was great too, because he knocks out the first one, and he misses his first one, and then he knocks out 2 the next time, and he's like, you see, I knew I couldn't do it with my first shot. Power can't overcome. He's doing like the whole like villain JoJo pose thing.
Yeah. I knew I had to destabilize them with my first shot so that my second shot could take out both. Yeah, it's some nonsense.
Yeah.
So, and then Asuka beats the shit out of him, and everyone else is like, that's cheating. Shinji wins by default.
Yeah.
Which is the best way to win, if you ask me. By default.
Yeah. It means that you were guaranteed from the beginning. There was no other option.
Of course.
I am the default.
I am the default. That's why I default on rent all the time. So that's there's a little bit extra to this one where Shinji hears Asuka screaming loudly from across the festival.
And, nice little cameo from Hyuga and Oba, who are apparently also teachers at the school.
Yeah, they're third-year teachers though, not first-year teachers like Misato. And so Shinji hears Asuka screaming, comes running, and finds these 2 teachers, but assumes they're just creepy old men creeping on Asuka, and Asuka has to remind him that they're the teachers.
Oh no, because Shinji ends up knocking himself the fuck out.
Oh yeah,
because he's like, I'm gonna kick your ass, then hits the ground.
Yeah,
which I want to see the other side of that interaction, where it's like Oba and Hyuga like looking over the kid, like you prepubescent like 14-year-old Shinji screaming his way out of the bush, like I'm gonna kick your ass, and then immediately knocking himself out.
To be fair, it's not dissimilar to Shinji's first time in an APA, which might be what they're mirroring here, which is him getting real pissed off, taking a couple steps, and then immediately face planting.
Damaging his cranium.
Yeah. While this happens, Shinji has a flashback to... Or not Shinji has a flashback. It might be Shinji's flashback. I don't know whose flashback it is, but there is a flashback to Shinji and Asuka as children, and Shinji making a comment about how he's the boy, so he's going to do his best to protect her. And
good to see Shinji still got that trait.
Yeah, he's still a misogynist. Good for him. Gendo taught him well.
To be fair, I don't think this Gendo would have ever taught him that.
Oh, no.
Listen, Shinji, whatever you do not piss off the females.
No, not even the females, just whatever you do not piss off your mother. She's scary. Yeah, so that's kind of the first 5 chapters. It's a lot of kind of individual stories, starting with Rei getting introduced, and then kind of how she's disturbing the dynamic between Shinji and Asuka.
Yeah, she's shaking up everything. One thing I do really enjoy, though, is in the shopping story, when it's Asuka following Shinji and Rei, and then it's Toji, Kensuke, and Ikari
following Asuka.
And then when they finally mix the groups, it's like, yeah, that is pretty weird. She's like, what the fuck are you guys doing here?
Yeah, so also what happens is, what is it that she wants? So they do her shopping, and she's like, the last thing I need is some...
She wants frames.
Right, picture frames.
And then they're walking in a swimsuit.
And Shinji's like, alright, they're right over here, and then walks directly towards the swimsuits, and it's like, this was not on purpose. And then everyone yells at Shinji for being a fucking pervert.
Yeah. You lewd.
You lewd boy. Lewd boy doesn't sound right. I shouldn't say those words. Yeah, so that's the first 5 chapters. Last 2, 6 and 7.
The plot shows up.
Not Nerve. The Human Artificial Evolution Project Institute shows up.
It's like the Human Evolution Institute, and they're working on the Instrumentality Project, which Kensuke does allude to earlier because he's still got those connections, I guess. And when he's doing so, he's imagining Sea Lake.
Yeah. And then all the others call him out for essentially being that one kid from elementary school who talked about Nintendo too much. They're like, oh yeah, your dad's the commander of the institute, isn't he?
No, his dad is!
Oh god. So yeah, we find out that Rei has been a part of some tests, but her sync rate is going down. And so they bring Shinji and Asuka in because they assume, after doing extensive tests, that it's not like a physical health thing, it's her brain that's gone cuckoo. And so they bring in 2 fucking 14-year-olds to diagnose another 14-year-olds.
Well, they send Misato to get it, and Misato pretty was like, hey, you guys having a lover's quarrel or some shit?
Yeah. And then...
you can practically see Misato crushing a beer in every scene she pops up into.
So Shinji ends up chatting to Rei for a little bit, and then Rei's like, alright, I'll do it. And then she goes back in, and her sync rate is climbing. And then it reaches the human soup level, where she's now soup inside the entry plug.
Yeah.
And so, of course, the only logical conclusion sends Shinji in to pull Rei out of human soup.
Well, it seems to have the similar rules where only certain people can do entry plug stuff. So Shinji is the only option they have. I guess Asuka is also technically an option, but they didn't address that.
I think Misato's well enough aware that Asuka and Rei are not getting along right now, and so sending Asuka in to save Rei is not a good idea.
I do want to rewind a little bit, though, because we do have a brief glimpse at what we can expect from this Gendo during this scene when someone accuses him of designing plug suits. He's like, this wasn't even my design, Yui did this one. It's not really my tastes.
Yeah, it was, Rei walks out wearing the plug suit, and Shinji fucking immediately turns towards Gendo and is like, I see what you've been studying up here in your lab, you creepy old man. And he's immediately like, no, this wasn't me. I swear to God, I understand why you would think this is something I would do, but this was your mom. Your mom did this, I had nothing to do with this.
So yeah, I think one clear thing about this world is it might be weird, but I think they have a good relationship.
Yeah, everyone seems to be good and along just fine.
Yeah, especially Yui.
Yeah, Yui's alive.
Like 14 years past her prime.
Yeah. Some might even say Yui's expired at this point. She has passed her best before date by a large margin.
It hasn't come up yet, but Asuka's mom also is a character in this, and she works here.
Asuka makes a comment about... so we find out that Shinji's parents and Asuka's mom have been staying at the lab for the past 3 days at the beginning of the 6th chapter. And Asuka makes a big deal about how Shinji didn't tell her that he was home alone. But, she didn't tell him that she was home alone, so first of all, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But also...
They both forgot to send a text.
Yeah. It honestly could have just been, you up, I'm alone, eggplant emoji, and everything would have been clearly explained. Can you make some eggplant parmesan for me, or eggplant curry? I'm hungry. That's clearly what was intended by those texts.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Although it would have been Shinji cookie, because he won't cook.
Of course. What was I going to say? Right, yeah, so after this is discussed about how Asuka's mom has been at the lab for the past 3 days, Asuka makes the one line of, how could my mom leave her sweet, beautiful little girl all alone like this? And it's like, oh, Asuka, it could be so much worse. It could be so much worse.
Your mom's done worse to the sweet little girl.
Your mom has tried to take the sweet little girl with her in the past, and trust me, that's a worse option.
At least she's blind as hell. She couldn't tell the difference between a doll and you.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what's going on there. Anyways, Shinji goes into the soup and pulls Rei out of the soup, and then they end up holding hands a lot afterwards, and Asuka calls him out for holding her hands so much.
And then Misato calls him out on having lovers spats again.
And then Misato gets offered a job of being in charge of the field command of NERV or something. It's not explicitly said, but she is now directly the adult-child relations director.
Yeah, she's got pretty much the same job as she did before. She's just not living with them anymore.
Yeah.
Also, this is, I believe, the only time we actually do see Rei living with Shinji in any of the versions. Because usually it's always going to be Asuka that ends up being the one who in any way lives with them. But in this one, it's specifically...
Yeah. I don't know for sure that it's the only one in any series, but it's the only one we've seen from this podcast's perspective.
I believe it might be the only one.
I'm willing to accept that. I'm just saying I have no stance to take on this. But yeah, that's the Shinji Ikari Raising, not Raging project. The Shinji Ikari Raging project is just that one episode of Neon Genesis Evangelion where he's walking into rooms dick first.
Yeah. It could very well also be if Shinji didn't wimp out at the end of Evangelion and just murdered all the mass production agents.
Yeah, that too.
Or maybe it's just Shinji that's really into Rage Against the Machines.
There is an alternate timeline where he still plays music, but he plays electric guitar, and that's the Shinji Raging project.
This Shinji doesn't like Weezer. He's all about Rage Against the Machines.
Yeah. Oh, God. Anyways, that is Volume 1.
So, what are your first thoughts now that we've gotten into the Shinji Ikari Raising project? I know I've joked about a few aspects of this series too.
You've been talking about this being your favorite of the non-serious ones.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see where it's going because it does seem to be the most I can't say the most because this is the second one I've read, but between this and Angelic Days, this one seems to be a little bit more leveled. It's not as wild and twists and turny. It seems to take itself a little bit more seriously. So I'm curious to see where it goes.
Yeah, it got more of it takes itself seriously, but it's got more of a subtle cartoon vibe you'd expect from this type of storyline.
Yeah.
As I was saying, it kind of threads that line of rom-com, slice of life, but with the harem, joke aspect of it, where the person gets punched across the room would be unbelievable in this one.
Yeah.
And they're perfectly fine just a bump on the head, even though mass destruction of the walls all around.
Or they get punched 2 or 3 times and they have the increasing bumps that shape a snowman on top of their head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's within that fun realm of I find most of the manga comics, they have that realm of it's serious, but they are able to, without taking you out of it, stretch it to that cartoony level.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know, it's early days, so it's hard to say for sure, but I enjoy it so far.
Yeah, and then, of course, we didn't really talk about it in the main because it's kind of a side thing, but they have also a little bonus, 4 coma style thing at the end.
Yeah, so this one was all about Unit 1 and Zuriel talking about how they haven't shown up in the series yet and wondering if they ever will. And then realizing that if they want to get into a series like this, they gotta go full schoolgirl maid cafe, and so they start dressing up as schoolgirls.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
And then Unit 1 immediately gets awkward and destroys Zuriel.
Yeah.
So, overall, if you had to put it on a scaling with everything else you went through, just Volume 1, the opening of all of them, where would you say this one falls in?
The opening of this versus the opening of Angelic versus
Rebuild.
the opening of Rebuild versus the opening of the original project.
Although I guess Rebuild and the original run is just more art style differences.
Yeah. I would probably put this above the opening of Angelic Days, and probably on the same level as the original run, and ever so slightly behind.
Fair enough. Definitely, this will be a fun ride that we're in for the 18-volume run, so we'll see where that goes.
This is the newest season of Farewell Evangelion, is just us talking about this one series for the foreseeable future.
Pretty much.
Yeah. We're going to be talking about this for roughly the same amount of time that we talked about the original series. Like, it's going to be shorter, but not by a huge margin.
Yeah, well, this will probably have a debrief episode at the end, which Angelic Days did not need.
No. Oh god, this is my life now.
So, with that, I guess we'll end up this episode. So make sure to like, favorite, subscribe, write a review. You can find us on podcasting platforms. We go up every Wednesday. You can follow us on Instagram, where we upload information and facts about the series on a regular basis, as well as have polls here there on the weekends. We also are pretty quick about answering questions as well. If you want to send us an email, you can send us an email at whatismypodcastabout@gmail.com. There you can send out any questions about the series that we're going through currently, or questions you have about overall as well. And as always, Peter, what can we expect on Volume 2 of Neon Genesis Evangelion, the Shinji Ikari Raising Project?
Well, of course, as is sadly becoming my default prediction, we're going to have a culture fest in the next series when Shinji's class decides to put on a maid cafe with Asuka and Rei both working the maid cafe. But it's going to get interrupted when an angel attacks the town. And because the other two are very busy playing as maids, Shinji's going to have to go fight the angel while the other two maintain their maid cafe cover.
And of course, plenty of fan service.